third graders, welcome back. I asked you at the end of chapter 7 to think about why Miss Agnes shows the class a map of Alaska. And I also asked you to think about why does Miss Agnes or how does Miss Agnes make learning math meaningful to the students? Um, and before we answer those questions, we're going to talk a little bit about the central message of chapter 7. The central message can also be the main idea or the most important idea that we learned about or read about in chapter 7. So if we think back to chapter 7, and you can even go back and look at pages 41 through 45, and I think about all the things that I read in chapter 7, and everything kind of revolved or circled around one idea. And that idea was how Miss Agnes was different than the other teachers. And so when I think about the main idea, I can think about the main idea of the story, or excuse me, the main idea of chapter 7 being that Miss Agnes was a different type of teacher, right? She used different methods or different ways to make learning interesting. So if I think about that, I think that that's going to be my main idea was that Miss Agnes uses different teaching methods to make learning fun or interesting. You think about some of the other teachers, they always had desks in a straight row. The teacher's desk was in the front of the classroom. Everything about Miss Agnes that we've learned so far is different. She is different than the other teachers, and the way that she's teaching is different. You think about them throwing out the textbooks, that was different. Okay. So if we think about how Miss Agnes was different in chapter 7, we want to think about three specific details. Okay. And a detail is a supporting idea. So when I think about Miss Agnes using different teaching methods to make learning fun or interesting, what was one of those ways? If you think back to the end of chapter 7, when I asked you to think about why did Miss Agnes show the class a map of Alaska, if you think about that, the reason was she wanted the students to know where they lived. She wanted the students to know what their state looked like, where they were located. So she was using that map to teach geography. So she was using that to teach geography, using a map to teach geography. It was a different method. Instead of just reading about it in a book, she wanted the kids to be able to see it. And I don't know about you guys, but I often learn much better when I can see something instead of just reading it. Okay. The other way you think about the second question that I had asked you was how does Miss Agnes make learning math meaningful to the students? Think about the example that she gave with Sam Dubin. Do you remember Sam Dubin? He came from Yugoslavia, and what happened to him in the story? If you think back, they shared with us that he couldn't read and he could only do arithmetic or math just a little bit. So if you think about how did she make it meaningful to the kids? Well, she explained the importance of being able to do math. What did she say happened to Mr. Sam Dubin that kind of taught him a lesson? Do you remember what happened to him? He lost all of his money because everybody cheated him. And she helped the kids to realize what that real life connection was in their lives when they go to Anchorage or they go to the different cities and they trade their fur. She did not want them to get cheated out of money. And so she helped them realize, like, hey, you might not think this is important, but it really is because you want to make sure that you get all the money that you deserve. And that was something that really motivated the kids. And it was something that made sense to them. Okay. If you think about another supporting detail, there was one more where in the story, they talked about giving each of the kids a different arithmetic page. Why do you think she did that? Well, the reason she gave each of the kids a different arithmetic or math page was because each of them had different problems to complete. Each of them were capable of doing different um, difficulties of math problems. And so she was trying to challenge them and keep them excited about what they were doing. And she kind of connected it back to the importance of them valuing these skills. So we can write as a detail that she gives students different math problems to complete. And she didn't do that to be mean. She wanted them to learn everything that they needed to. And sometimes you have to learn the simple addition and subtraction before you learn multiplication, just like in third grade. We use our understanding of addition and subtraction to learn multiplication and division. Okay? So when you guys are reading your story, I would love for you to take a minute and see if you can figure out what the central message or main idea in your own book is. All right, good luck.